to support him, you know what I'm saying, and say, be behind what he's doing because he's clearly changed the demographics of our team. Like now, what we can go and clearly say, like, we got a general manager that's competent. We know that. Like, I mean, he been killing the draft. You know what I'm saying? What even what the naysayers may say last year wasn't effective. You know, wasn't a typical Brad Holmes hit every pick kind of draft, but that's asking a lot, man, to hit every pick. I mean, what's the ratio? It's always lucky to get maybe three guys out of each draft, you know, maybe four, maybe two starters, two rotational players at the and you doing good if you hitting
Yeah. Well,
out of
success and failure is contagious. It seemed like when you hit,
mhm,
everybody hit. And then it
yeah,
seemed like you can't just have a half straight down the middle draft. When it's bad, everybody bad.
yeah, yep,
And
yep.
the Patriots went through it. Every team goes through it.
Yes, yep. And it's always what's up, Super Random? It's always another chapter to be written in your legacy. Like if you're Brad Holmes, you know, like you said, that this is probably, I think I might have said the same thing last year. This may be the most important draft they've had. You know what I'm saying? Because I think we on the cusp of doing something, last year. I mean, listen, it is what it is, how the season ended. But the fact of the matter is, the Lions were one top four teams in the NFL last year, despite the injuries, despite how it ended. I don't care what anybody says. I think the line, and it wasn't a fluke. I think if those, let's just say we play hindsight and those players didn't get hurt, and they stay relatively healthy, Walt, I think that the outcome of the season, I don't think we probably would have won the Super Bowl because I think that, make no mistake about it, our defense still wasn't good enough, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I think we
They were
was,
opportunistic.
yeah,
They played bend
opportunistic.
but don't break. And when
Yeah,
some
and
interceptions slowed down, the defense slowed down.
that's right. That's right. And it's not taking a shot at anybody. It's just the fact of the matter is, well, you've been covering NFL, longer than me, and the defense got to be right, man. I mean, you can only outscoring people is only going to take you so far, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody can't beat the 99 Rams. You know what I'm saying? The greatest show on turf. You can't outscore and score 45 and beat everybody. I mean, eventually, I think that it's gonna come back to bite you if you can't stop anybody. You know what I'm saying? So, um, I don't know, Jo. I don't know if the Lions would have won last year. I
You
mean,
know,
it's
I
just
I I was just telling somebody that same thing earlier. It's like
mm, I
this is
don't.
what kind of worries me about Lions fans. Like we still stuck in woulda,
Mm,
coulda, shoulda.
yeah.
Well,
Mm,
you know how many teams around the league can say the same thing that we said?
mm-hmm.
Well, if we
Yeah.
wouldn't have been missing our starting left tackle, or we wouldn't have been missing our star wide receiver, or this guy, that guy.
Yeah. Right.
At the end
Right.
of the day, man, it didn't. We failed on the biggest stage, bro. Against
I
the Washington Commanders, we looked horrible.
Yeah, yeah. And I said this to somebody. It's a great debate, man, because I even said, even insert, let's just say we give us one defensive player. Let's just say Aiden Hutchinson would have played in that game, right? I don't think we'd have won. I don't. I think if Hutch was at full strength, he's one guy, and I don't know if that would have made, without Lee McNeil, get DJ Reader, you maybe could have made a difference with Hutch in there. I don't know, maybe, but I just still think we wasn't good enough offensively. That I think
Well, I
that
mean,
was the
also,
game.
yeah,
We I was just gonna say this, while we picked the wrong game to not being able to execute. You know what I'm saying? Offensively, I think the offense kind of let us down too. You know what I'm saying?
definitely.
So it's either here nor there. You know what I'm saying? I, it's a good debate to have, but the reason why we're here tonight, what I'm saying, we clearly, I agree, Super Random. You have to get the defense right, man. You know what I'm saying? You can't be like disguise it. Remember, you can't disguise every coverage because you lacking. Like Aaron Glenn was working miracles, man, with less than talent. You know what I'm saying? Ray Straw, didn't see him all season. No Mosley, no Carlton Davis. You know what I'm saying? And we was sort of like with a Band-Aid, just trying to like make it work and blitzing our ass off, and we got away with it. You know what I'm saying? With Sam, I was talking to a guy today. If Sam Darnold was half competent in that game, they probably could have beat the level. It was just like what we were doing was just unprecedented. You know what I'm saying? So listen, I agree. I'm hurt. I wanted us to win, but I'm a realist too. And what I seen, clearly we need more talent on defense, man. And that's the bottom line. I mean, you know, you can go on all day and say, well, we would have had this guy, we would have won, and we would have had, you know, Hutch. I don't know why everybody think if
The
Hutch would have
offense
played,
had everybody.
he would have had 9. So, right, that's what I'm saying. That was the game where if the offense would have showed up
down.
and you know,
it ain't like basketball. If you missing one guy, that one guy that you miss could potentially be the difference between you winning and losing a 7-game series. You know, you look at the football, look at everybody who was down. The third play of the game, Amiga Robinson broke his arm. Like we was already down too many people. I love Hutchinson, man, but
me too. I love Hutch.
I think we sometimes we put a little bit too much responsibility on one player in football, man.
That's all.
And then if you look at offense, the offense had everybody. And I'll agree, I'll actually disagree on this because that game we saw against the Commanders, we've seen that before. We saw that type of game earlier in the season against Tampa Bay. We seen it about we seen it one of those weird games where they just throwing when they obviously should be running. They throwing on short rundowns and they want to run trick plays when there's obviously no need to do it. And you got Goff out there throwing the ball 50 plus times.
Yeah.
Like this is
recipe for disaster. It's not going to work. You know what I'm
saying? It just so happened that type of game that we're not used to seeing that type of game from the Lions or Ben Johnson calling that type of game, but it's like every 10 games he'll get one of those. Yeah. It just so happened the last one was his last game before he left, and it happened on the worst stage for it to actually happen. Yeah. You know, but we do think this team needs to pretty much reinvent itself a little bit. You and I aren't really in the same boat with everybody, not everybody else, but a lot of other fans who feel that we'll just bring everybody back, everybody will be healthy, and we'll be fine. For one, when you got 2 guys who won't be there for probably the first month of the season, 2 of your defensive guys, Aiden Hutchinson, as well as Aleem McNeil, that hurts. When you look at that schedule we got next season against those quarterbacks we got to face, not having those 2 dudes on the line of scrimmage hurts. I don't give a damn what 22-year-old we go out and draft next month. It's not that guy's not Aleem McNeil, and he's not Aiden Hutchinson. That's we didn't go out in free agency and sign a player that's even on either one of those players' caliber. So for the most part, we're banking on Brad Holmes drafting 4 Pro Bowlers or 3 or 4 All Pros, and they're going to step right in, and they're going to pick up where the stars we have now pretty much left off last season. Mm-hmm. It could be a struggle, man. And I just think that Tom Brady said it best, man. The whole window thing, your window is year to year because every year you need to be slightly reinventing yourself. Yeah, especially if you're a team that doesn't have a Tom Brady or a Brett Favre or an Aaron Rodgers or a Josh Allen, or, you know, if you don't have that type of guy, that truck that you can staple everything in and say, okay, this is what I'm riding with while I get everything. This guy right here, he can get us to 10 wins while we fix everything around him. We don't have that type of quarterback. Yeah. So if for people to think we'll just run everybody back and everybody will be healthy next year and we'll kick everybody's ass because that's what we was doing last year, the NFL will shock you, man. We done seen some really good teams lose a coordinator here and there, lose players, and go from being a 13, 14 win team to being wild card, outside the wild card, sometimes a 4 or 5 win team. Yeah. And I think that's why we're doing the safety video tonight.
Yeah, that's right. You know what I'm saying? And let's be honest, like you said, no one's saying that they're the worst team in the division now. But like I said, it's just not that I'm so worried about the Bears or so worried about the Vikings or the Packers for that matter. But we got a tough division. I think, the NFC North is the top division in NFL. You know what I mean? I really do believe that. You know what I'm saying? And if a you know I don't know, man. It's very difficult. Yeah, Joe's right. I
It was
mean,
a horrible omen for the rest of the game.
yeah, and I think it's funny that Joe mentioned that because I think the minute that happened, I think you text me and you say, "Here we go." You know what I'm saying? And I remember that very vividly. He's right. That changed the whole game. I agree. You know what I'm saying? But getting back to what we were saying, but are they far away? No, they're not far away. You know what I'm saying? Even if we bring everybody back. But what I'm saying is you got hungry team. Remember the Lions, where we go? Did we go 6-0 in division last year? I think we were 6-0 in division. And I think maybe 5-1 the year before that. So we've been kind of dominating the North, man, for like 2 years now. You know what I'm saying? So you can I'm not so naive to say this team will win 15 games again. You know what I'm saying? You know how hard that's going to be to win 15 games. You know what I'm saying? With 9 road games this year, with games against Jalen Hurt, games against Lamar Jackson, games. You know what I'm saying? It's just Joe
They got the
Burrow. I think.
Chiefs.
Yeah, we got the Chiefs. I mean, man, it's gonna be tough. You know what I'm saying? But I digress. You know what I'm saying? Neither here nor there. But let's get everybody let's get a relaxation pill and just chill out and just talk about some guys, man, that can really change our fortunes. Listen, we got two of the best safeties in NFL. There's no doubt about that. No one's saying
Safety is a huge position in the NFL now.
yeah,
More important than ever.
think about it. Not much else after Brandon Joseph. I'm sorry, Brandon Joseph. Yeah, actually, Brandon Joseph got cut. I think my man from Northwestern went to Northwestern Notre Dame. I think he's off the roster. Melifonwu went to the Dolphins. So we kind of need another guy, man. We do. You know what I'm saying? The safety room is solid. You know what I mean? But we do need somebody else in the stable. We got two young safeties, man. I love them. I love Kirby Joseph, love Brian Branch. I think Brian Branch could be a guy that if he has somebody, if we drafted another one of these guys that we're gonna talk about tonight, I think Brian Branch could be more of a roamer, you know what I'm saying, and kind of, play in the box, play line tight to the line of scrimmage, or if we draft one of these kids that we're gonna talk about, i.e. Xavier Watts can really be a guy that can play close to the line of scrimmage and help support the run as well. I'm excited about this draft because, like you said, I think all of these guys that we pick, I think we got both five. We both got 5 guys that we picked, and I think all of these guys, like you said, man, is probably going to be available. And I don't think it's out of this realm of possibility that we could take a safety. Now, would you do it over taking a pass rusher? I don't know about that. I don't know if I would take one of these guys over if you could get, he's Rocco from Boston College, or you can get Mike Green, or, what's the kid from Texas A&M, Shamar Stewart. I mean, just take your pick, Landon Johnson. I mean, it's a lot of guys out there that I would rather have at 28, even offensive lineman, but a safety, man. The real question, let's start it off with this while I ask you this. You got the graphic with the five real quick. I mean, which one of these guys, Walt, and I'll ask your list. Put your crystal ball in front of your microphone and tell me not who was your favorite player, because I think I know who it is. I think we probably got the same guy that's our favorite player, but who do you think the Lions could draft off your list? You know what I'm saying? Off the 5 that you have. What would be realistic?
At 28 or just in the draft period?
Let's just say not so much at 28. Look, well, I think all of these guys will probably be going in the top 64 picks, or at least by the third round. So the top 96. All these guys are going to be gone by the third round. I think they're that good.
I would say, I think Nick Emenora is realistic, and the reason I think he's actually realistic is because the NFL a lot of times just gets it wrong. They see athletes like him, they see unicorns like him, and they get scared off. And me and Lamar, Spirit of Detroit, talk about this all the time with Tariq Woolen, and how the Detroit Lions and Ben Johnson coached Tariq Woolen at the Senior Bowl, worked with him all weekend. All week they worked with him and passed on him multiple times in the draft. Some teams see athletes like that, special athletes, and they get scared off.
Yeah.
But they'll see it at the quarterback position. Dude can throw a football 88 yards, but can't throw a 10-yard out. But they'll make that type of guy the 5th overall pick or the number 1, number 2 overall pick. That's why even DK Metcalf, and DK Metcalf hasn't had a super stellar NFL career. He's been good. Does his production equate when you look at with his skill set? Probably not, because he's a super athletic freak. But people see that, and a lot of times they get scared off of it by it. That's why I think a guy like Nick could fall to 28.
Yeah.
Because honestly, and we talked about this before the video, I think there's a good chance all of these guys could be there at 28. Simply because unless you're just special, and Malachi Starks, I think people viewed him as special prior to the NFL Combine.
Yeah.
And it's bad because he didn't physically show out the way people thought he would. Yeah. He ran a 4.5. He only had a 33-inch vertical, which I found pretty shocking. You had offensive linemen that jumped higher than that, which is weird. His broad jump wasn't all that explosive. But when you look at him on the field on tape, he's explosive. He's flying sideline to sideline. He's playing on the roof. He's coming down into the kitchen, being in the box. He's making play. He's playing in the slot. And we talked about how when Malachi first got to Georgia as a 5-star recruit, the boy was so talented that first year. That's when I really got turned on to him. I'm like, dude, Georgia was looking bad. I forgot which playoff game was. They was looking bad.
Yeah.
But he was still, as a freshman, he was still the dude that was out there making all the plays, running around everywhere. And he was such a talented player that they still had Lewis Cine at that point in time, the guy that the Minnesota Vikings ended up drafting. I don't know where he's at now, though. I know he had that horrible injury in training camp his rookie year. But Georgia was so loaded as safety and DB, overall high-end DB. Keely Ringo was still there. Was a lot of guys that were still there. Kamari Lassiter, who's with the Houston Texans right now, they played him at nickel. He was supposed to have been a safety, but they felt like this dude was too talented of a player as a true freshman to leave him on the bench. So they did play him at nickel.
Yeah.
I think he's the safest. When I look at his lack of athleticism at the combine, I'm not scared off by it, because he plays seconds and seconds better than that on the football field in every single aspect, man. 6'1", you're talking about a guy who's a little bit over 200 pounds. He's kind of like that prototypical sideline to sideline hybrid safety they kind of want now. Nick Emenora, who I have at number 2. Yeah. I think this draft class at safety needed a player like him, because outside of him, everybody else on this list is pretty much relatively in the same realm size-wise, except for Andrew Makuba. Andrew Makuba's pretty slight built. Damn good football player, though. But, Nick is the outlier. Out of all of these guys, he's the 6'3" guy, the 220-plus pounds. He ran the fastest 40 out of all of them. He had the highest vertical out of all of them. Comparison-wise, his production, his on-ball production, was just as good as anybody else's here. So it's going to come down to, I think, mainly with Nick, who drafts him and what type of common sense defensively do they have? Because if you see Nick Emenora and you get turned on by the athleticism, because the first thing you see with him, you're going to see 6'3", 220, 4'3", 40, 43.5-inch vertical. Okay, I'm going to put him on the roof and just let him play one high all day, and that's not what he is. Yeah. He's more of an IFI2, more souped up, more athletic.
Yeah.
Melifonwu.
Yeah. Man, I like that physicality, man. You know what I'm saying? Just as big as a receiver, where the receiver don't have an advantage against him. You know what I'm saying? Basically. You know, I just, if I had to just pick a guy, I told you I think Malachi Starks is a guy that would fit our team, like as far as and I heard you, Joe. Hunter Waller, I like him too. Like late, and that he would be there in the 5th round. I think that would be a good pick. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't hate that at all. You know what I'm saying? Because I think he fits the bill too as well as what the Lions are looking for size wise. But yeah, and you know me, I think my favorite is Andrew Mukuba. I like him. He's probably my favorite guy because of the way he plays, but he is small. You know what I'm saying? But you know, and I do think we do need some size a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because Kirby Joseph is a taller, safety, and obviously he plays center field. He's a ball hawk in the red zone. Kirby Joseph's fantastic. And then you got Brian Branch, guy who's not the biggest guy in the world himself, but he plays like it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think that even matters with Brian Branch, man. So I do want a kind of guy that can maybe feed off those guys, and I think all of these guys could. I really do. I think Xavier Watts is a guy who supports the run damn good. I think he would be great, like a de facto linebacker that you can use. He's big enough, he's strong enough. I wrote down some things. He's strong, supports the run way. Xavier Watts, I'm talking about from Notre Dame. I think that what's his 6 feet 203. He ran a 4.4. You know what I'm saying? Xavier Watts is the guy, man. You know what I'm saying? I think I like him for our team, but I think if I picked a player that I think that Brad Holmes would take, I think it'd be Malachi Starks. I think that just because of he might not be the most athletic guy, and it seemed like them the kind of guys that Brad Holmes likes, man. The non-athletic guys, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? It just seemed like because we don't have too many of them. Aiden Hutchinson may be the most athletic guy we got. You know what I'm saying? On that D line that can move and nimble and can just jump and make interceptions. From the defensive end position. So for me, I want another firecracker, man, back there. I want a spark plug, a guy, and it's not a big ask. It really isn't in this draft. I think his safety position is loaded this year. Just like Joe just mentioned, a couple guys, Crawford and Wohl. I don't know too much about Crawford. I have to look him up. I know he's from Nevada, I think, and I think he's a little bit on the smaller side as well, but. Yeah, I think that's definitely a spot wall in this draft where, that's why we're bringing it up, because I think that the Lions may take a safety this year. You know what I mean? Because think about it. Contract situations is going to come up, with Kirby Joseph. I've heard that they're maybe getting into talks with Kirby Joseph, maybe before the season starts to sign him long term. But we'll see, you know what I'm saying? So you can't keep everybody. It's good to I just think we need another guy, period, man. Billy Bowman is another guy. Billy Bowman is probably number 5 on my list, not to slight him or say he's a bad player, because I like him too. I think because he's small like Mukuba, and he's not as dynamic as Mukuba, but Billy Bowman is a football player, a damn good football player, man. He got super range. He can get there from side to side. That's what I like. It just seemed like he at Oklahoma, he's always in the right spot, man. For me, just my safety's got to know what the heck's going on, man. You know what I mean? He can't be letting the play get out of whack. You know what I'm saying? It just seemed like kept everything in front, didn't do anything flashy, but he was dynamic from sideline to sideline as far as getting there. You know what I'm saying? Not leaving the field open to any nonsense or anything like that. So, Billy Bowman is a really good football player, man. He's gonna be drafted in the top 3 rounds. I mean, I predict that. Now, Jordan Hancock, and maybe you can expound on Hancock a little bit more, but I like him. I really do. Well, I think he's great in coverage. I think, man, is a great open field tackler. And if I had to check all the boxes, he's got it. I mean, far as like if anybody's getting on the outside on him, they're not doing it. You're not getting on the edge with him. You know what I'm saying? Because I think he can make a tackle.
I think out of everybody, he's more so they type of player, and you know why? Because he's not that athletic. And if people may say, well, Jordan Hancock was a corner at Ohio State, we got him on this list because more than likely, I think Hancock is going to transition to safety. He plays like a safety, and to me, between him, Ransom, Denzel Ward, Davison, I don't want to butcher my boy last name. To me, out of all those dudes in the secondary for Ohio State, he was their best player. Even though Denzel Ward was there the longest, it seemed like Ward was there forever. To me, Ward stayed too long. And the longer you stay in college, the more they start exposing all of your flaws, and other guys start coming in that's better than you. Because Ward was a 5-star recruit also coming out of Florida, state of Florida. But yeah, I would say this, man, about the safety position. A lot of times as fans, we need to scrap everything that we used to know about football when it comes to unwritten rules of not doing this and not doing that, and you got to do this, you got to do that. Teams today want dynamic players, and dynamic players come at all positions. Edge rushers, tackles. You look at the fact that Jim Harbaugh took over for the Chargers last year, and his very first pick was Joe Alt. Who was the very first pick for our regime? It's Penei Sewell. Yeah. The running back position, you saw Bijan going to top in the first round, the top 10. Bijan in his second year was a 1,400-yard back this year. Bijan had the quietest 1,400 yards I ever seen. You look where Jahmyr Gibbs got drafted. Year 2 in the league, he led the league in touchdowns from scrimmage. So I don't think it's about as much about the positional value anymore, because people said that about Brian Branch before the draft. Well, he's slow. He runs a 4.5. Is he a pure strong safety? Is he a nickel corner? I don't see the value. Look where he went. And now when I see all these redo mock drafts about that year 2 years ago, everybody got Brian Branch going in either the top 10 or going in the top 15.
Yeah.
Same thing with Rob Gronkowski. You don't take a tight end in the first round or the second round. If people knew Rob Gronkowski was going to turn out to be as dominant as he was, Gronk would have been a top 10 pick. So it's about getting game changers and difference makers. And in this day and age, the NFL, you play 3 corners at least, or you're going to play 3 safeties. So in your situation with us where you got Rakestraw, Terrion Arnold is 2 question marks on both of those dudes. You got Amik Robertson coming back from a broken arm. There's no telling when exactly he's going to be back. You brought in DJ Reed from another team. This dude was top 2 in the league last year in penalties.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions at cornerback. So what better way to protect your cornerback room other than surrounding your corners with elite safety play?
That's right. Right.
That's how we looking at it for the most part. And if you have a choice between let's just say this for instance, you brought this up before the show. Let's just say, for instance, pick 28 comes around and all of these dudes on the board, but Shamar Stewart is gone. Nick Scorton is gone. Mike Green, for damn sure, probably is gone. But we're so hard up for an edge rusher that you're going to go and do what? You're going to take the 4th or 5th or 6th rated edge rusher over the number 1 safety?
Yeah. Be just what like Joe just said. 3-1-3 and 4. I agree with Joe too. Way harder to replace an edge. He's right. But I would take at that scenario you just said, Walt, I'm going guard. You know what I'm saying? Just what 3-1-3 and Fun said at that point. Because like you said, that's a very good point by you. You know, you're not gonna go and reach for, like you said, maybe
that's bold.
Joe's right. I mean, he's right, and that's why I think this show is so significant, because I think that may be a situation like that where we're not gonna keep everybody. I mean, I know we've been saying that, and Brad's he's done a good job of keeping like the guys that he wants to keep. But man, I'm just telling you, and I had a talk with a friend of mine. I would if I had a choice, he goes, I picked Brian Branch over Joseph. And I said, I would rather keep Brian Branch. He goes, oh, why would you say that? That guy
I
led
would too.
the guy led the NFL in interceptions. I go, bro, that's how many did he get like the last, not to slight him at all, but I'm just trying to make a point. How many interceptions did Kirby Joseph get the last 7 weeks of the season? He didn't get none. You know what I mean?
After
Not
the
saying that
Tennessee
he
game, yeah.
right,
I
not
think he
saying
went
he
like
was
4
playing
games without one or something.
right. Not saying that he was playing bad. That's not the point. But what I'm
Right.
saying is I think Brian Branch is more difficult to replace than Kirby Joseph. That's all. I'm
Definitely.
saying if you got two dynamic, if you got another dynamic linebacker and you got a guy like Brian Branch, line him up with Jack Campbell, then you can get a one of these safeties and play safety next to Brian Branch. You know what I'm saying? If need be. You know what I'm saying? So man, it just is a position. People may say it's not a position of need. Why would you take a safety at 28? But man, you could say that for any position on the board. Why you some people say, well, edge. I'm sorry, offensive line. Why would you take a guard at 28? Guards, this
Right.
draft, them guards gonna go quick, man. Them offensive linemen from Savania, Gray Zabel,
Josh Simmons from Ohio State.
yeah, Josh Simmons,
There's a lot of them.
Donovan Edwards. Yes, you got Miles Frazier. He probably won't go to Tyler Booker. Definitely going to be a first round draft pick. And we all know when a run on players goes, when a run on safety start, everybody going to be dying to get one. You know what I'm saying? When a run on receivers start, everybody going to be dying to get one because they want to don't be left out of not getting, the guy that they want that might go
Yeah.
sooner than they thought. You know what I'm saying? So,
I
yeah.
would say this though, for fans who don't understand the whole safety thing in this day and age in the NFL, just look at it as getting 2 players in one.
Mm.
Because most safeties today that go in the first round, the days of the Jamal Adams and the Roy Williams from Oklahoma, those type of safeties that suck in
Oh
coverage,
man.
that just play in the box and hit people, those safeties are done.
Yeah.
So typically in this day and age, you're getting a safety, especially in the first round, you're getting a safety that helps out at safety as well as helps out at corner. Because that's what Brian Branch is. Brian Branch isn't just a safety, he's also a
Mm-hmm.
corner. So imagine this. Let's say the Lions take Malachi Starks at 28, or they take an athletic unicorn and Nick Imiora at 28, pretty much a guy who's another chess piece,
Mm-hmm.
like Branch is. Now you have a situation with Kirby and Nick Imiora, the guy who can cover everything from mid to deep. Now you have a situation where Brian Branch can help out at corner more. Now he can help out at nickel more. He helps out the cornerback room. So I don't think it's a situation where when people hear teams drafting the safety, they just hear, oh, you're drafting the safety. You don't do this in the first round. You don't do this in the top 10 or whatever. I think teams are drafting players to fit their scheme and what they want to do. I think that's the most key thing. And if the edge rusher isn't there, the last thing I want to see us do is reach in the first round. That's one thing
Mm-hmm.
Brad Holmes hasn't done since he's been here is reach. He's made one thing for certain in the first round. He wants difference makers. He talked about how after the draft, after they took Penei Sewell, they asked him about Jamar Chase. And he said, yeah, if Chase would have been there at 7, we would have had a hell of a choice. Because they knew what they wanted. They wanted Garrett Wilson
Mm-hmm.
the year, that 1 year. They
Yeah.
wanted Garrett Wilson. Even last year, Malik Neighbors. They glowed over Malik Neighbors. He talked about how, yeah, Neighbors, everybody loves Malik Neighbors, man. Like he wants difference makers in the first round. That's why, and I'm with somebody just mentioned something about taking a guard. Okay, 313 and fun mentioned about.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned the same thing about Gray Zabel. When we did our mock draft a few days ago,
Yeah.
I wanted Gray Zabel, but you know what happened? And this goes to what Joe says and what Joe wanted. James Pierce was on the board. I find it hard for me to pass up on big time edge rush talent for an offensive lineman. Even though the offensive lineman may feel a specific need at that point in time, we talked about if Gray Zabel and James Pierce both go on to the NFL and have Pro Bowl laden careers, who's going to be considered still the better player? The edge rusher.
Yeah.
The guy who's getting 15, 16, 17 sacks. Gray Zabel could turn out to be one of the best interior offensive linemen or one of the best swing linemen in football. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to really notice. And that's bad because we coming from a Detroit Lions perspective where everything was built off an offensive lineman being this regime's very first round pick, or very first pick ever. So sometimes it comes down to also, if what you want at 28 initially isn't there, sometimes you got to go take a strength and make that strength even stronger.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And I agree with the health. If our defense was obviously healthy, that's the number one. I think we was talking about that before you jumped in. And I do think, yeah, you know what I mean. But it is to a point to where now our team is good enough where we do need that dynamic difference maker. You know what I'm saying? We got one in Hutch. Everybody knows that. You know what I'm saying? But offensively, across that offensive line, since we on the subject of guard, I mean, yeah, I mean, Penei Sewell, obviously he's going to be playing the left side whenever Decker, hangs it up, right? So we know Sewell is probably the best right tackle in the league. I think we can all agree on that, right? So right now at this point, I don't want to see. I'm done with seeing Glasgow. I mean, I don't think that he's good enough, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? God bless him. I mean, he's a good plug. He could fill in for a couple weeks. You know what I mean? But he's not a guy that's going to make our unit elite. And I totally agree with the notion that you got to keep the offensive line, strong. You know what I'm saying? We do. I think that is one of the strong points. And 313 Funds said it too. Yeah, and I said it the minute that game was over. I think I text Walt that our offensive line they probably played the worst I've ever seen them play. I mean, our offensive line was bad for probably about 4 or 5 games. We got away with it. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't stand out in a one and done situation like we did. You know what I'm saying? So I agree. I mean, 28. I've been saying it before. If you would even elect to tell, I like Miles Frazier, Marcus Willis. I like him. I really do, and I think he'll be there later. I don't even think Miles Frazier even projected to go in the first 3 rounds. I think you can get Miles Frazier, later on and just address some other needs. But I would love to get him and put him at guard. You know what I'm saying? I think that would be perfect for him. But yeah, I mean, right now at this point, this stage of the draft. They got the Lions taking anybody from Mike, depending on what mock draft you go to, 5.0 before it's all said and done. Yeah, I agree, Joe. Tyler and I told Walt. Walt asked Walt who did
Boy, can you imagine Jamar and his agent walking into Brad Holmes' office? Brad got a jar of pennies sitting on his desk.
Yeah.
So Jamar, we were thinking.
Yeah.
No, boy, Jamar would have been traded, boy.
Yeah. And I agree with Joe. I mean, I told Walt, Joe, last week, I think of 2 weeks ago, I think Tyler Booker would be the pick. I really do. I think when it's all said and done, that's just me. That's just what my gut telling me. I think that Tyler Booker might be the guy if he's around. You know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't be upset about it. Of course, you got to get that edge rusher but it is about 15 guys you can get at edge rusher. You know what I'm saying? Really, it is. And if you don't get them in round 1, you damn sure better get them in round 2 because I don't think they'll be around after that. You know what I'm saying? The after you get the top guys, Mike Green, James Pierce Jr., you know what I'm saying? Then you're getting into some guys that might not be as talented as the top 6. I do think it's top heavy as far as talent goes, but I do think it's, 10 to 15 guys, Lions edge rushers that could be got in the second round. So, yeah, it's another guy, Malachi Moore for Bama. He's not on my list, but I kind of had him on the fringe. of being on my top 5 list. Well, at safety, I think he's obviously playing for a blue chip program like Bama. I still think they are, even though they got a new coach. I can't think of his name. Washington's old coach. He's there now. It's alma mater, but I do think that they still put out players, man. I think the SEC as a whole still, puts out quality talent, man. So that's another guy. I love Xavier Watts. If I had to rate these guys like the top 5 right now, I would say my top 5. I would go Starks. I would put, I would go Starks, Xavier Watts, Mukuba, but I would switch. I would put Jordan Hancock ahead of Billy Bowman. That's how I would have him right now. I like Andrew Mukuba. That's my favorite guy out of the bunch right here. You know what I'm saying? I like him, but I think Watts would be better because he's strong and can play. I like anybody to support the run.
That's what I was gonna say too. Watts has more. They all have more of the NFL body than Mukuba has. But I will say this goes back to what I was just saying about position versatility, because Mukuba can play in the slot. And I was talking to someone the other day about him. It wouldn't surprise me because he ran the 4.45 at the combine. He had a good 3-cone. The ball skills are there. He has short arms, very, very slight frame. And the way he plays, the way he throws his body around worries me. Now, I do currently have him rated as my 3rd overall safety at this point in time, mainly because I like his instincts and everything. I like everything about him better than Watts. Watts is a damn good player. But when I also watch Watts, he has a very high tendency to play extremely fast. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I need to see a little bit more patience out of him.
Yeah.
He comes in with his hair on fire a little bit too much. He takes bad angles. He will blow some tackles. Now, he ain't scared out there. He's a very physical, very alert safety. I think Malachi Starks, Andrew Mukuba, Billy Bowman Jr., even Jordan Hancock, all of these guys, and of course Nick Imiora, all of these guys have quality ball skills as well.
Yeah,
that's something that the new age safeties have to play. The Steve Atwaters,
that's right,
and the Ronnie Lotts, those type of safeties are extinct. They've been extinct.
They're obsolete. Yeah,
these dudes are pseudo corners now. So when you take a safety high, you're not, especially one of these type of safeties, you're not just drafting a safety. You're drafting a guy, especially in Nick Imiora, a guy who's big enough to bully most wide receivers, whether you're talking about slots. He's got the reach. He's got the power. And then he's also big enough to match up, and he's more athletic than every tight end he's going to go against.
Yeah.
And he's physical enough and big enough to handle them. And this is also a guy that can come up and play in the box. Like, there's so much that you can do with Nick Imiora with that talent. But as much as I like him, and he is my number 2 overall safety right now, I will admit this. I think also he has the biggest boom or bust factor.
Yeah.
And it's mainly based upon where he goes. Because he could go somewhere where they see that talent, they see the athleticism, and they automatically think, I'm going to turn him into a cover 1 safety.
Yeah.
And just make him do this all day long, and that's not what he is. He's fast, but he's that typical tall dude fast.
Yeah.
Where it takes him a while to build up speed, but once he builds up speed, he's burning. That's why I kind of question whether or not he's a consistently a cover 1 type of safety. Yeah. Because he can turn east-west, but you got to still remember too, he's 6'3", 220 pounds. So how quick do you really expect him to be able to flip his hips and run, consistently? But me knowing me and how I view football and how I view defense, a very creative defensive coordinator is going to love Nick Imiora. Now, being super talented, could the Lions get kind of turned off by him and view him as a player they may have to pay a lot of money in a few years and don't want to deal with that headache? It's possible. But I just think that overall, man, and we can go back to Jordan Hancock because we've seen a lot of Ohio State the last 3 years, man. Last 4 years. Very versatile, very smart player, very patient. And the thing is, he's not the best athlete. He wasn't even the best athlete in that secondary at Ohio State. So when you're not the most athletic, you have to be the headiest. You have to be the smartest. You have to be the most alert. You have to always be a step ahead of the big time athletic wide receivers as a corner. And he was damn good at that. And he played decisive. And he played decisive because he always knew his keys. He knew what his responsibilities was. They moved him around a lot. He played in the slot. He didn't really play on the outside a lot. That was mainly for Davison and Denzel Burke, for that matter. But I will say this: underneath, he's a menace to deal with underneath. When it comes to like matching and transitioning fluidly and shadowing wide receivers underneath,
tight coverage, tight, all the time.
His big issue is same thing. Well, a big question I did have about Terrion Arnold last year. When you out there on boundary, out there on the perimeter against a Malik Neighbors or a DK Metcalf or a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson, are you athletic enough to deal with that thoroughbred? Because it's not enough to always be smart. Because everybody, all the great players are smart. Let's just get that out of the way. Sometimes athleticism matters. And I know a lot of times people want to downplay athleticism a lot lately. Athleticism still matters in sports. And you can be as smart as you want. You can watch as much film as you want. What do you do as a corner when you match up against a dude that is 5 times the athlete you are, and he watched film too? He know as much about you as you know about him, and he's running 4.2, and he's running 4.3, and he's jumping 40 inches, and he plays hard, and he knows his playbook in and out.
That's right.
So you're gonna always lean towards the athletic player, man. You don't find out about heady players until they get to the league. Then you realize how good they were. People slept on and underestimated Brian Brent so bad. And we talked about Brian Brent coming out of Alabama, how good of a football player he was. But they saw the 4.5, and we're at a point in time now where teams see, or people in general, they so caught up in that 4.3, 4.2, that they see a safety run a 4.5 and say, oh no, he's too slow. So so now we expect safeties to run 4.3 and 4.4s. So I think in general for this team, man, Brian Branch, hell of a player. Kirby Joseph, hell of a player. But a lot of people headed into this past season said we didn't need any line help because we had Davenport and we got Reader in free agency as well. And Aiden Hutchinson was ascending. And we had Pascal and we had Mekhi Wingo, who we took later on in the draft. And Broderick Martin was going to make a huge leap in year 2. All them dudes ended up on IR. Except for one of them, DJ Reed.
Yeah.
I mean, DJ Reader for that matter. So it's like, same thing happened in the secondary.
Yeah.
What if something happened to Kirby? He gone for the year.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think. And I think they will at some point take a safety because I think the room is thin. You know, you got 2 guys. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have one guy that might miss some time. I think Brian Branch even missed a couple games last year, just, for little miscellaneous injuries. But, yeah, I mean, the 313 and Fun, good question here about the tight end position. I've been saying that, since the end of the season, man. I think we definitely need a tight end too on this team. This is a safety show. We'll get in maybe the tight ends here before the draft. I'm pounding the table for Terrence Ferguson. That's the guy I want from Oregon. I think you can get him within maybe the first 3 rounds if we lucky, but after that, I don't know. It's you may have to go to Jake Brennan-Stool, I think, from Clemson. What's your guy? Gadsden. What's up, Rafi?
Arondé Gadsden the second.
Yep. With Mason Taylor, I think, from LSU. I think is another guy. I don't have the list in front of me, but it's not a great tight end draft. I mean, it is some prospects. I mean, obviously some guys I haven't been following. To be honest,
I like Isaiah Fannin, not Isaiah Fannin, Harold Fannin. Junior
Harold
Bowling
Fanning.
Green.
And yeah, yep. Yeah, he's a ball player. I think they got him rated at number 3 on Draft Buzz, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, to answer your question, I'm lockstep with you 3-1-3-4. I do think we need another tight end. I really do. I think, you know, you look around the league, I think a lot of teams, the good teams, have a couple tight end sets. You know what I'm saying? If you go into a situation where you can have Laporta and another tight end play in bunch situations, or you know, it's just a situation that's got to be looked at as well. You know, just to say we're going to run Laporta out there again with Brock Wright and Shane Zylstra. I mean, that's just, and James Mitchell not even on the roster anymore. So yeah, I mean, and Joe, I hear you, man. You in lockstep with Terran Arnold. I think a lot of people make fun of him and say he's not any good. I don't see how you can make that assumption after one season and already say he's not good. But I agree. I think next year, if we coming back and saying the same things with Terran Arnold, I think, yeah, then you got some issues. But let the man play corner one more year. That's how I feel about it. I don't think that he's a liability. You know what I'm saying, out there. I don't. I think he'll really learn, take a next step. How good? That remains to be seen. But I don't think he's somewhere in the middle. I don't think he is as bad as he is. He may not be, his recovery may not be good. You know, if he gets burnt and he doesn't, I think that's why he's a little bit handsy, because he's trying to get there. And I think that that's all coachable things, and it looks like he's been trying to work on it, man. Through the off season, look like he's been all business this off season. So I'm that's one guy. I got him asterisk by Terran Arnold's name, man. And he's one guy I'm really looking at from last year's draft class that should take a next step, in my opinion. So
I think it's major that he does. Not only because he was a first round pick,
yeah,
simply because we need a corner in that room to hit. We need a young corner in that room to hit.
yeah.
I'm not as high on Arnold. Like I said, I think he's a good player, and there's nothing wrong with being a good player. I said that prior to the draft, that I had him behind, because I had Quinyon Mitchell number 1.
Yeah,
I
you
had
did.
I had Nate Wiggins number 2. I had Cooper DeJean number 3. I had McKinstry number 4. And I had Kamari Lassiter of Houston number 5. All of those dudes had better rookie seasons than him. All of them. And like when I explain this to Lions fans, that's why for me the cliche of Terrion's a rookie, it takes rookies a couple years to get adjusted to the speed of the game. That's bullshit. Because we see consistently rookie corners who do have success. I think it's okay to isolate what he had, the situation he had, for what he had, and not make up excuses for everybody else. Well, Nate Wiggins only had success because he played in Baltimore's defense. Baltimore defense was not as good this year as it was last year.
Yeah.
And Marlon Humphrey took a dramatic step back. Now, and Kyle Hamilton played a lot more closer to the line of scrimmage. And they left Nate Wiggins on the island a whole lot more, but that's also 4.2 speed and traits.
Yeah.
Then you hear, well, Quinyon only had success because he played next to Darius Slay. And then Cooper only had success because he played in the slot. And it's like, it's always, and then, well, Kamari Lassiter only has success because he played with Stingley. Like, so everybody got excuses for their success.
Well, I think part of it is too. I mean, listen, we see with every corner look good if you got pass rush, man. I really do. I believe that you putting your guys at a remember Aaron Glenn? Remember we threw everything in the kitchen sink at Minnesota. We won that, what was that, 31-9 game? Remember that, the finale? We blitzed on every play, bro. I mean, and that was just putting a Band-Aid on it. And maybe if those situations, if Darnold would have got the ball out faster, then maybe it would have been a different outcome. I really do think that to cover up and mask some of the things that was really, the elephant in the room on this team, they got by because, the defense was just playing out of their mind. Remember, we had Pat O'Connor playing out of his mind, El Qadim Muhammad, playing just out of his mind, man. The first until it all came to naught. But yeah, I do believe. Now, do you think? Let me ask you a question about this. I know we talk about safety. I mean, do you think corner is an area that could get addressed? You know what I
Definitely.
mean? Another corner, yeah,
Definitely. But it comes down to what was your pride to let you do, because
yeah,
public perception. If let's say, for instance, where I know you're not really that high on Will Johnson, but let's say Will Johnson was there at 28, or not necessarily Travis Hunter. I doubt Travis Hunter's there at 28. But let's say the number 1 rated corner, number 2 rated corner is there at 28. I doubt they would take him, simply because public perception would be taking a corner in the first round this year would be like admitting that you failed on Terrion Arnold last year.
That's right. Yeah.
Or you failed on Rakestraw last year. Even though you may view Will Johnson as better than both of them, or you may view Travis Hunter as better than both of them, or another corner in this class you could view as better than both of them. But am I happy with the cornerback room? No. And I get it, man. Listen, Lions fans, and it ain't just Lions fans, it's just football fans in general. We're tribal and we love our guys.
That's right.
If Quinyon would have been the pick, we would love Quinyon.
Quinyon.
We would defend Quinyon. So we was going to defend whoever was here in the first place.
That's right.
I view Terrion Arnold the way I view him because I watched enough of him at Alabama. I noticed that Nick Saban liked to play man defense, but when he had McKinstry and he had him out there that last year, he played way more zone than he liked to play. I noticed how he played against Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and Kyron Lacy a year ago, and how he sat 10 to 12 yards off consistently, because he just isn't as explosive to handle those type of guys. And that's why I'm so high on SEC corners and SEC wide receivers, because it's about the amount of talent that you play against. And I'm not saying he's a bad corner, but I think people are we have a tendency to oversell our players because they are players. And like I said, I get that. But people would say, oh, he's going to be shut down. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. It took Braylon Edwards. And that's why I respect Braylon, because it ain't too many people on TV in this town or on the radio that's going to really call a spade and tell it like it is. It took him to come out and say what he said about Terry Arnold. I remember watching that one episode of Woodward Sports a few weeks ago when everybody was so pie in the sky about Arnold, and he's going to be this, he's going to be that, he's going to be elite. And Braylon had to come out and say, like, what did you see for him that makes you believe he's going to be an elite player? And this is a former wide receiver that knows DBs. Bill Belichick, after the draft, said what he said about Terry Arnold. And fans told Bill Belichick he didn't know what he was talking about Terry Arnold. It's like, sometimes you can't just always blindly defend your own players and just ignore reality.
Yeah, without having,
like it's the dude struggles with certain things. It is what it is. Now you have hope. I got hope too. I hope he turns out to be pretty good. But it is what it is. Like I said, everybody I had ranked ahead of him had better rookie seasons. And it is, you can make up an excuse for everybody for having success. But I know what I saw. All those guys had traits, and they traits transcended over to the next level. Yeah, Quinyon was tall with speed and physical, and it was tough to get away from him. Nate Wiggins can fly like a gazelle, and it was tough to get away from him. Kamari Lassiter, one of the best slot corners in the class, had a damn good rookie season for the Houston Texans. Cooper DeJean. Like, it's sometimes, let's just call it what it is. Some rookies have success, some don't. But you can't say Arnold didn't have success because he was a rookie when we saw other rookies have success. Like, that can't keep being the excuse.
Yeah, but I think what can I can't say this though to defend him. I think it is a position where it's very difficult, you know what I'm saying, to learn. Maybe like you said, those traits didn't come out right away, you know what I'm saying? But I do think the competition you play against, I do think matters. And I think a year going through the NFC North, you know, with Jefferson and Addison and, you know what I'm saying, Christian Watson, guys that can run, DJ Moore, you know what I'm saying, on these other teams. And I think he can be a guy that you can count on. I really do, man. I mean, we can come back here next year and you can laugh in my face. I just believe that it's
I
just
think he's gonna be a good player.
I just don't think he's like no good. I mean, I
No,
don't think
I
he's
don't think he's
trash.
no good. I
I
got
don't think
killed
that
for
at
saying I
all.
think he's a nickel. I
No,
said he was a nickel corner, and people killed me for it. It's like calling a corner a nickel is the equivalent of calling a wide receiver a possession receiver.
yeah.
Like that's a slap in the face or something.
Well, you get labeled. You get labeled as that anyway. Like, what's the guy? You tagged me on Facebook about the receiver. What's the receiver from Miami? Xavier Restrepo.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
they already say he ran what a 4.8, and they saying that he's another slot merchant like St. Brown. And it's like, I don't even read too much into none of that stuff anymore
you know they brought the
because
race into it.
yeah, right.
Even though I don't think he white though, but
Yeah.
they did bring the race into it too. Well, man, listen, Lad McConkey. I had Lad McConkey rated as a first round pick last year,
Yeah,
but Lad McConkey was way more explosive than him.
yeah, he had great rookie season,
Yeah,
man. Lad
great
McConkey
rookie
was
season.
good last year. Yep.
Yeah. Man, we done bounced all off the other position. Well, we kept it in the secondary. Now, like I said, I just think that we get back to the safeties, man. If you get another versatile safety,
yeah,
that's why I think there was rumors about them taking Dax Hill a couple years ago, even though Dax hasn't had the most success over there with the Cincinnati Bengals.
yeah.
But the safety position is so important in the 4-2-5. Like it's so important in defense, period, today.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have guys who, because all these corners for the most part are like in this day and age are 5'11", 6 foot, 6'1". Every now and then you'll get a unicorn that's tall and can run. The 6'2" guys for the most part.
Yeah,
But most of these corners are in that same little size, height, weight realm. And you need to have versatility out there. That's one thing Coach Hugh Jackson talked to me. I had talked to him about this a few weeks ago. The versatility that's needed in football now is the most key component. It's the most key component. You need safeties that can play corner as well as safety for the most part. Not everybody, but some that can do that. You need nose tackles who not just straight zeros anymore. Now you need zeros who can play 1, 2, 3, and a little bit of 4. That's why we were talking about Jamari Caldwell last week. A guy who's not just your prototypical nose. He can give you some pass rush value from the 2 and the 3 every now and then, not consistently. But yeah, you need guys who can play inside, outside, safety wise. You need that. I mean, for corner wise, you need that also from your defensive line. Look at the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the ball. Now, are they preaching about his versatility? You can't even be a straight center no more.
No, you got to
They
be
want you to have
center
guard
and guard.
Yeah,
Yes,
they want you to
center and
have
guard.
guard versatility. Oh, can you kick out the right tackle? You know why? Offensive linemen get hurt. You need the versatility, and that's why you and I believe are so high on Miles Frazier. And it's not just his versatility. Miles is a high-end athlete that also has the versatility. Right.
Yeah, Miles gonna surprise some people, man. I can't believe he's not rated higher than what I've seen. They didn't even have Miles Frazier at like second round. I haven't seen him that high yet. You know what I'm saying?
I haven't either.
Yeah, that's
But
crazy.
that don't mean nothing. The
Yeah.
media be putting out all type of phony stuff. They don't even know what the hell they talking about.
Yeah. So, well, man, before we get out of here, tonight, the safeties are important. I think we both agree that I'm right with you. That's exactly how I would have it. Just how you just had it right there too. Guard, safety, edge, and tight end. But I think it's an important part of this draft, and I just don't want people to, Lions fans, to lose sight of, just because you got two guys, don't mean you can't draft a third. You know what I'm saying? Because stuff changed, contracts, injuries, circumstances, different packed. I'm sure. Remember, we got a new defensive coordinator. I'm sure Kelvin Shepard wants a couple new players, obviously, that he can put his stamp on this roster as well. Obviously the familiarity with, Rodriguez and, Jack Campbell and Derek Barnes is there, Aiden Hutchinson. But, you always have to add some new players to the fold. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's a reason why they maybe didn't go. You know, on the bright side of it is maybe it wasn't a large dive into free agency. You know, obviously we know the money is number one. You know, some of these players command like Milton Williams command. I think he got $100 million. I think from the Patriots. And that was a guy I wanted, but it was too pricey. Once I realized that Milton Williams was like the top edge rusher on the board, there's no way he's gonna come and sign a one. Yeah, right. He ain't coming to sign a 1-year deal for $4 million. You know what I'm saying? So
he was the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, huh?
Right.
Brad said, "Put that back on the shelf. Grab that cinnamon swirl over there." You ain't getting no Cinnamon Toast Crunch in Brad Holmes' buggy.
Yeah. So so I think that this draft, I mean, may garner us another defensive lineman, like you say, rookie contract, you know, where the numbers are going to be maneuvered. And then remember the money, because I realized we was still like over 40 million over the cap. I mean, under the cap. I said over the cap.
Last I checked, it was 46.
But I think we got contracts that's got to be negotiated. So that's a thing right there. Like Aiden Hutchinson might be like the next guy in line, and he may get that money. You know what I'm saying? So it is a reason why, a method to their madness, why I think it is calculated. And that's one thing about Brad Holmes. I think he has been calculated. Every move he's made, I think he's had a reason why he hasn't done X, Y, and Z. He's doing it his way. You know what I'm saying? And for right now, the fact of the matter is, it's on a budget, that type of thing. But I think, you know, we still can't argue with the results. You know what I mean? And before he came around, I don't think that we as fans had as much confidence. Like they would draft the right people. You know what I mean? So now I think it's different feeling around here, man. So we know, I think the frustrating part is, at least I'm gonna just speak for myself. You know, you want players that you think that can enhance your team for the better, and it just seemed like it was players even in the last draft that I wanted that we didn't get, and then we took a couple projects, and it's like, man, that wasn't the right thing to do. You know what I mean?
But feel that way. It's fair to feel that way, and everybody is entitled to feel that way. I felt the same exact way, man. Like, I feel the same way about this free agency period. Like, did we bring in anybody? And I get it. It all depends on how you view free agency personally from your microscope.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like we brought in anybody, and I hate to say this, outside of DJ Reed, it didn't feel like we signed anybody that's going to be here past 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Like Lopez and the other linebacker they got. It felt like, and this goes back to what you were just saying about getting guys that can really help, you know, saying for the future, guys that's going to help get us to where we're trying to go. It feels more so like we got nails in the tire. He just went and got a bunch of fix-it-flat cans instead of just changing the damn tire. And we've been talking about that same thing with the cornerback room. And this goes back prior to him. Like historically, it seems like this comes up every single show.
Yeah.
How bad this organization has been evaluating corners. In free agency, corners in the draft. It also seemed like when we had the opportunity to draft big-time corners, somebody took them right in front of us or something. Mm-hmm. And we end up with the cold oatmeal or some shit.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, DeMel, 313 Funds. We've been right on point today. You and Joe, thanks for y'all comments as well tonight. Y'all always on point, man. Appreciate y'all. Corey, everybody, Ralphie, everybody. But yeah, you know,
Jack the odd man out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I said it the last show. I mean, Mano's got to be that. I mean, I feel the same way. It's like
the bouncer.
Mano's got to produce. I mean, I haven't even seen anything. I don't even know if he can play. You know what I mean? And that's the frustrating part. You know what I mean? Him, Broderick Martin, and say at least Vaki did see the field a little bit. You know what I mean? But that's all. I just had a problem with those picks last year. And, you know, if we only would have took I had it written down we passed on, and we could have had, and we took those two guys. That guy that's starting right now in the NFL, defensive player that we could have had, and it's just like that's what I don't. I hope this draft we don't go off that because and like we see that in the NBA a lot. We see an NBA draft for potential, right? We see it every year in the NBA, and sometimes it seems like
ooh, that'll be a rough one.
That's
you don't think they don't pay the rent? That's well, you know what? That's something that people have to think about. Because if listen, Gibbs had a 20+ touchdown season, his second year in the league. And you can kind of expect, we talked about this before. We think he's obviously your best offensive player now. Mm-hmm. Overall, he's the best skill position player. You can argue whether he's better at his position than Penei Sewell is at his or whatnot, but he's obviously your best weapon on offense. And I think the offense is going to pretty much flow through him year 3 of his career next year. What if he keeps churning out monster seasons? Like, you're going to have to pay him. And it's going to be some, I think Trey Finesse brought this up a few shows ago, man. There's going to be some uncomfortable conversations held in this town over the next couple of years. And there's going to be some players that walk out the door that none of us ever envisioned would leave. Because like you said, you can't pay everybody.
Yeah.
You can't make Gibbs top 3 paid running back and Jack Campbell top 5 paid linebacker and Kirby and Brandt's top 5 paid safeties. Like,
the only thing, this is the only thing. This is reason why I want, and I think a lot of our listeners and watchers want them to build around, because this is the thing. Like, let's just say when Jared Goff contract, I think we got Goff for 2 more seasons, if I'm not mistaken. Only reason why I'm bringing him up because he get paid the most, right? So if you could somehow, like, I remember Tom Brady did it every year where he damn near reconstruct his contract every year to get under the cap so they can keep the guys they need to keep. So what I'm saying is, I think if Gibbs, which, Gibbs, Laporta, I think Jack Campbell, all those guys came up in one of the comments. I think you can be able to keep all those guys, but this might be a situation where we may be transitioning into our next quarterback at that time. You know what I'm saying? But I think maybe Gibbs might be. I mean, I'm sorry, not Gibbs, but not Jack Campbell. Who was the other guy on top of my head? That we got Brian Branch. One of those guys gonna come up before Jared Goff's contract's over. What I'm saying. So, Kirby Joseph, if he gets the big contract, obviously that's gonna, hit the salary cap too. You know what I mean? But you're gonna maybe have Taylor Decker coming off the books, if I'm not mistaken. So it's ways around it. I mean, you know what I mean? It's not like they could do it. Jared Goff's gonna be the guy that maybe has to restructure, or take a pay cut or whatever if he wants to stay here, or maybe just flat out he may not even be on a roster in a couple of years when it's really time to pay those guys. So it'll be interesting to see. You know what I mean? So, what's your plans? Next show we doing another mock draft, for which direction you want to go into?
Oh, we might as well, because I figure we're gonna do the mock draft every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So we can probably go ahead and since everybody want to talk about the edge rush class, we can go ahead and jump into the edge rush class. I don't know if you want to do strictly defense. Well, not defense tackles. We could do defense alignment overall. Or we could just go with the pure defensive ends and the edge rushers.
Yeah, I think so. Everybody, so we can kind of separate and filter it out pretty good, because our guys, Joe, everybody that watches, man, everybody knows football here. You know what I'm saying? So I think we could maybe go out. Let's do edge rushers the next show. I think that would be a good show to do. You know what I mean? Just to pass the who's who names that we already know, the top 8 guys. You know what I'm saying? Let's really dive into it. Maybe, get a top 20. Maybe we ain't got to go through 20 players, but what I'm saying is maybe pull it up and just show that, it is some value out there. But it is, I'm going to just tell y'all, past the top 8, pass rushers, it is a drop off though to me in talent wise, but you can still get value, at any position in the draft. But I think it's something to be looked at. I think pass rusher is the number one thing I think everybody wants us to get. So I think it'd be a good time, man, to go into it a month before the draft, exactly a month before the draft to get into it, man. You know what I'm saying? So
definitely. Like I said, we went through these safeties. There's a lot more safeties, man. Like I said, for me, Billy Bowman Jr., very talented player coming out of Oklahoma, made a ton of plays. He's just on the outside to me, man, because I think these other guys provide a little bit more versatility. They're better athletes. They're bigger. They're a little bit faster than him. A little bit more ball skill, a little bit more versatility. We talked about Jordan Hancock from Ohio State, who is a cornerback, but more than likely, you and I both agree he's probably going to transition over to safety at the next level, mainly because the high end, not even necessarily, I want to stop saying high end athleticism, because you don't have to necessarily be a high end athlete, upper echelon athlete to play corner. But we know when you look at him, the thickness in the thighs and the hips and the stiffness, he kind of struggles to turn, transition, and get deep with players. That's what I think about me, myself, personally, when it comes to safeties and corners. I don't want people to think all he cares about is athleticism. That's not necessarily the case. I just think that sometimes we get so caught up in these prospects, and we have to remember that they are prospects. We view these guys as finished products, and what you see is what you get. What you cook with these players is all based upon how you use the ingredients at the end of the day. And there's a lot of guys on both of our lists who could turn out to be very damn good players if they're put in the right situations. So, right. All right, man, we'll go ahead and get ready to get up out of here. Anything else you want to say to these people before we slide about?
No, man, thanks for joining us tonight. Very good just to get into it, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, a month before the draft, definitely time to start talking draft, man. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have roughly 6-7 new players on this roster. Hopefully, I'm looking for 4 to 5 guys that could play, that could really play. And I'm not saying that they have to be Pro Bowl players. It'd be nice they be Pro Bowl players, but we need some live bodies, man. That's all. That with some talent on both sides of the ball. You know what I mean? We'll get into it more. Like I said, the receiver, we're going to go through every position, even though it may not be, popular, but we still going to get into every position in this draft. Linebacker is a big one too that we can get into as well. So
definitely. Like I said, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight for another successful show. Hope everybody enjoyed it. I understand safety is the most sexy position to talk about. But if y'all watching us and y'all subscribe to us, y'all are some football fiends and y'all care about football on every aspect and every level.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Yep.
Definitely. Yep. And we will see y'all back in a couple days so we can talk about these edge rushers and get into what y'all really want to talk about. Till next time, One Pride.